Max was working when the equipment hatch suddenly malfunctioned. After checking, he found that a tray had jammed the door. The manager nearby thought Max was slacking off and rushed over to urge him. But when he learned the door was jammed, he didn't try to open it properly. Instead, to save time, he ordered Max to go inside and move the tray. Otherwise, he would deduct half a month's salary to compensate the company's loss. There was absolutely no room for negotiation. Of course, the manager didn't feel the need to negotiate with Max anyway. He knew Max's salary was barely enough to survive, so he wouldn't dare refuse. Max, just as the manager expected, struggled for a moment, but headed into the machine. Unexpectedly, as soon as he moved the tray, the hatch slammed shut. Co-workers nearby heard Max screaming and rushed over to pry the steel door open, but they were stopped by the manager who arrived on the scene. He knew the interior was now filled with high-intensity radiation. Opening it blindly would definitely kill everyone. Only after the radiation had completely dissipated did they arrange for a robot to drag Max out. As for the company's follow-up plan for Max, they only told him he had 5 days to live. A robot casually tossed him a bottle of pills. These were just to make his remaining days a little less painful. What was even more infuriating was the company president's reaction. After hearing about the safety accident, he only told the manager not to let Max stain the sheets. Before leaving, he didn't forget to urge the manager to resume production immediately. Little did he know that Max, with only 5 days of life left, would make him pay a tragic price. After being kicked out of the company, Max met his friend Julio on the road. At Julio's house, Max told him everything that had happened. He understood that only Elysium could cure him now, but Julio shook his head helplessly and told Max to just take the medicine. In the late 21st century, Earth was extremely overpopulated and heavily polluted. It was no longer suitable for human survival, so the rich chose to flee Earth to maintain their quality of life. They built a ring-shaped space station called Elysium, 20,000 kilometers away. There, the climate is pleasant and the air is fresh. Robotic servants provide service 24 hours a day, and every household is equipped with medical pods representing top human technology. Whether it is a severe injury or a terminal illness, they can be cured and restored. Countless people living on Earth are desperate to go there, but the price of a ticket makes people sigh in despair. Therefore, some terminally ill people can only go there by smuggling, and this is Max's only chance to stay alive. The smuggling ticket is still very expensive. Max and his friend's savings were nowhere near enough, so he asked the smuggler boss for credit. The boss almost laughed his head off and told him to get lost. But when he learned Max had only 5 days to live, his eyes lit up. He needed a desperate man to help him complete a dangerous mission. The plan was to kidnap a rich man from Elysium who was visiting Earth, then use a special interface to copy the bank account data from his brain into Max's head. If he brought it back, he would get a free ticket. Max struggled internally because every rich man has robot guards. Kidnapping them is basically a death sentence. Moreover, he could barely stand steady at the moment. The boss saw Max's concern and took an exoskeleton suit from the warehouse. He said that once connected to the nervous system, Max would be as strong as a robot. His friend tried to persuade him to give up, but Max had no choice. However, he had one condition: change the target to the CEO of the robot company. The boss only cared about money and didn't care who they kidnapped, so he agreed. Then, Max went on to the operating table.
When we're done with you, you're gonna be a favela ninja.
The next day, after Max adapted to the suit, the team of 4 set out fully armed. The CEO was still unaware, flying toward Elysium under the protection of 2 robots. Max took the opportunity to fire a timed bomb at the spacecraft. Seconds later, the bomb exploded, the engine failed, and the ship crashed in an open field. Max and his team quickly surrounded the ship, but they didn't know that as soon as the CEO was in danger, Elysium received the news. The Secretary of Defense immediately contacted a sleeper agent on Earth for support. She urged him to protect the data in the CEO's head. She looked very anxious, as if the data contained something terrifying. Meanwhile, Max and his team exchanged fire with the robots. Unexpectedly, the robots' firepower was incredibly fierce. One robot held its ground against all 4 of them, but even the most intense gunfire needs a reload. Max seized the chance to fire a special bullet at the robot. The bullet exploded 2 meters from the robot, blowing it to pieces. The team didn't waste time and forced open the ship's steel door. The CEO was shocked to see the kidnapper was the man who was radiated before. But even in danger, the CEO remained calm. He was sure these people wouldn't kill him, and there was another robot guard. But there was a man named Manuel in the team who sprayed the ship with bullets. After Max took down the robot, he found the CEO was shot in the chest and dying. Fortunately, his brain was not damaged. The team didn't delay and immediately connected the CEO's brain to Max's for data transfer. Just then, Manuel noticed a military ship flying toward them from a distance. Even worse, the data was encrypted and unreadable. Seeing the ship getting closer, the team had no choice but to run. But how can a car outrun a spaceship? Luckily, the car was modified to be very sturdy, and Max narrowly survived. However, he was still stabbed in the abdomen by the arriving Agent Kruger. Just as Kruger was about to cut off Max's head to take the data, Julio saved him. But due to his blurred consciousness, the bullets hit Kruger's bulletproof vest. In the end, Julio was killed on the spot by Kruger. Max took the opportunity to spray bullets at Kruger. Although the shield blocked them all, the impact knocked Kruger unconscious. The enemy ship had landed, and Max had to leave Julio and flee alone. Kruger woke up and immediately chased him in the ship. Eventually, Max hid under a flatbed trailer with an old lady's help and escaped the search. Kruger was absolutely furious because if the data was lost, he would be fired. But soon, he learned a shocking secret from his men. His men intercepted the transfer record between the CEO and Max. They found that it actually contained the source code of Elysium. Having this code meant having control over all of Elysium. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Kruger didn't delay. He launched all drones for a carpet search to find Max. On the other side, a desperate Max went to find Frey. But before he could enter, he collapsed due to blood loss. Fortunately, Frey found him after work and brought him home to bandage him. The next day, Frey asked Max why he was so badly injured. Max told her about his ordeal. Just then, a little girl walked in, and Max realized Frey had a family. Unable to hide his disappointment, he just wanted to leave immediately. Frey tried to stop him, and Max felt a bit jealous. But he soon realized Frey wasn't trying to keep him for romance. Frey's daughter was in the late stages of cancer and was about to die, so she wanted Max to take her daughter to Elysium. But Max could barely save himself, let alone take someone else, so he rejected Frey and walked away. Unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped out, he was spotted by a drone. He quickly knocked down the drone with a stone. Kruger saw this and turned the ship toward that location. Unable to find Max, Kruger broke into Frey's house and kidnapped the mother and daughter. He interrogated them about Max's location. Frey said she didn't know, but Kruger didn't believe her. To avoid wasting time, Kruger decided to take them away for further questioning. Meanwhile, Max arrived at the black market in a rage. Julio's death made him lose patience with the boss. He demanded the boss take him to space immediately. But he learned from the boss that Elysium had shut down the flight system. No one could go to outer space now. Max was very anxious because he wouldn't survive until the next morning. But the boss's mind was full of the data in Max's head. Since Max refused to give him the data, the boss made a guess. He said Elysium had never had a no-fly zone since it was built. The fact that they banned flights right after Max got the data means it is vital. Perhaps the way to lift the ban is also in the data. Max thought it made sense and agreed to the data transfer. The boss was stunned after seeing the content. In response to Max's question, the boss said this program gave total control of Elysium. It could make everyone a legal citizen of Elysium. But Max didn't want to be a hero. He just wanted to live. After learning the boss still couldn't send him up, Max went to find Kruger directly. He pulled the pin of a grenade and threatened Kruger with his own head. He forced Kruger to take him to Elysium for treatment. On the ship, he found Frey was also there. Max felt guilty knowing he had involved her. This subtle change was caught by Kruger. To confirm his suspicion, Kruger approached Frey to harass her. Seeing Max's anger, Kruger realized Frey was important to him. He felt certain Max wouldn't blow up the grenade, so he rushed forward to fight for it. During the struggle, a henchman accidentally hit the control stick. As the ship spun out of control, the grenade slipped from Max's hand. Seeing it was about to explode, he shielded the mother and daughter with a seat. Kruger couldn't dodge, and his lower face was blown off. The ship's engine was damaged, and it crashed near a mansion. Fortunately, all three of them survived. But as they prepared to leave, Max was ambushed by a henchman. He was knocked out by a stun gun. Frey ran toward a nearby mansion with her child. She planned to use a medical pod to save her daughter before being caught. but it wouldn't run because they didn't have Elysium ID information. In desperation, she actually asked the arriving agents for help. Just like that, both Max and Frey were captured. Fortunately, the boss discovered the flight system was back and tracked Max's location. Seeing Max had reached Elysium, the boss gathered his men to follow. He didn't know Max was currently a prisoner. Max was helpless even as Frey was taken away right in front of him. But the staff extracting the data ignored Max's exoskeleton suit. After charging up, Max broke free from the restraints. Two people tried to control him, but ordinary people are no match for a machine suit. Max easily knocked them down and learned Frey's location from one of them. Meanwhile, because the bomb didn't destroy Kruger's brain tissue, he was healed quickly. The medical pod restored him to his original state. But Kruger didn't get praise from his boss. He was scolded. The boss blamed him for ruining a rich man's lawn during the crash. Kruger finally saw the true face of these politicians. His life meant less to them than a piece of grass. Faced with the secretary's constant nagging, he couldn't suppress his grief and rage. A crazy idea formed in his mind. He stabbed the Secretary of Defense to death with a glass shard. Then, he immediately ordered a henchman to clear the building. As all politicians fled, Kruger put on a high-tech exoskeleton suit. He decided to seize the Elysium program from Max's head. He wanted to become the president himself. Unexpectedly, right after he left, Max fought his way to the armory. He killed 2 henchmen and headed out with Frey. At the elevator, a guilty Max decided to stay behind. He handed Frey a communicator and told her to find a medical pod for her daughter. Frey said she already tried, and it wouldn't start for people without IDs, but Max confidently believed it would work this time. Frey was confused, but Max closed the elevator and sent her to the first floor. The reason he was so confident was that he found the boss had broken into the building. Now he just needed to meet the boss and change the Elysium program. Then, Frey's daughter would naturally get the treatment. After arranging for 2 henchmen to protect Frey, Max and the boss ran to the control room. But before the door closed, Kruger suddenly appeared and jammed the door. At the same time, Max's life was coming to an end. He could no longer suppress his physical failing and collapsed. Kruger seized the chance and jumped in front of them. Fortunately, although Max was weak, his will to die kept him fighting Kruger. Finally, he took advantage of Kruger's arrogance and killed him on the spot. The boss also opened the main control room door. He connected Max's head to the Elysium computer, but as he excitedly prepared to reset the program, he found the data was biologically encrypted. The data transfer would kill Max. The boss told Max this news with a heavy heart, but Max already knew the consequences when he was kidnapped. He wasn't too surprised. He just used the communicator to contact Frey while pressing the confirm key. He told her he fulfilled the promise he made to her as a child. Then he pressed the enter key. As the reset program began to run, the lights of all Elysium dimmed instantly. When the system rebooted, they lit up again. At this moment, everyone on Earth became a legal citizen of Elysium. Frey's child was saved because of this. On the other side, the arrested boss was protected by robots from the president's charges. This was because residents of Elysium are not subject to the government's constraints. Soon, the system detected many new citizens on Earth needing medical help. It immediately launched dozens of ships. They continuously sent Earth residents to Elysium. However, in this way, it wouldn't be long before Elysium became a second Earth. And this just verified what Max's mother told him as a child. Cherish what you have now. Maybe one day, it will also become the pure land in everyone's eyes.